Eyes have been on whether a single opposition candidate would come out for the presidential race. The People Power Party's Yoon Suk-yeol announced the details of his negotiations with the People's Party An Chol-soo, saying that An ultimately rejected the deal. Yoon's move has become a turning point in the election scene. An responded by saying that he had dropped his offer for a merger because what Yoon's camp was offering was not worth considering.
Yoon Suk-yeol told reporters that he was notified of the final breakdown of the merger talks by An's election camp on Sunday. Yoon added he didn't understand why An had made the decision. He said their representatives already reached a tentative agreement and the only remaining step was a one-on-one meeting between the two candidates.
이유가 뭐냐 하니까 그쪽에서도 이유를 모르겠다. 특별한 이유는 없는 것 같다.
Yoon's camp disclosed the details of the negotiations with An. When An said he needed a reason to justify his decision to drop out of the presidential race, Yoon proposed to visit his house, but An left for Mokpo on Saturday night. An demanded Yoon hold a press conference to publicly ask him for a meeting, and Yoon responded positively. But it was of no use. Yoon says he will not give up hope. Following the press conference, Yoon campaigned in Gyeongsang-buk-do province. There, he criticized the Democratic Party's political reform proposal and pledged to achieve a change of government.
정권 교체 여론을 정치 개혁이라는 거로 물타기를 하려고 이런 거 던져놓고 자기들끼리 또 의총한다는 겁니다.
On Monday, Yoon is touring around Gangwon-do province, starting with Donghae. An's camp condemned Yoon for being insincere and revealing the negotiation process that he wanted to be kept confidential. An said the PPP had made an empty proposal and ignored his suggestion to select a unified candidate through a survey.
전해온 내용을 듣고 그 내용이 별반 차이가 없기 때문에 그것에 대해서는 고려할 가치가 없다. 그렇게 결론을 내린 것이 답니다.
And repeatedly vowed to finish the race on his own.
거의 한 1,200분 정도 모여 계신 것 같습니다. 저한테는 이순신 장군의 12척의 배와 같습니다.
And meanwhile, plans to campaign in Jeollabuk-do province for the second straight day to win over local voters.
Democratic Party presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung has been campaigning in the Yeongnam region in southeast Korea for 2 straight days. After the opposition party's attempt to unify the candidates fell through, he has been stressing his plan to reform politics and shape an integrated government as if he is trying to court An Chol-soo. Meanwhile, the Justice Party's presidential candidate Shim Sang-jung was in Jeju yesterday and in Gangwon-do province today.
Democratic Party presidential candidate Lee Jae-myung's Monday schedule includes visiting Pohang, Gyeongju, Daegu, Gumi, and Andong in the southeastern region. Those cities traditionally favor the conservative parties, but given that Lee's hometown is Andong, he plans to boost approval ratings as much as possible. On Sunday, when visiting Changwon in Gyeongsangnam-do province, he pledged to further develop the southern region.
앞으로 남부 수도권 새로운 싱가포르형 정말 도시국가의 중심 창원 발전해 나갈 창원 맞죠?
He also vowed to reform politics and shape an integrated government everywhere, indirectly criticizing the opposition party's failure to present a unified candidate.
또 선거 때 되면 막 이렇게 막 서로 막 합치고 누구 누르고 포기시키고 이런 거 하지 말고 결선 투표제 다른 나라 다 하잖아요. 왜 안 하는 거예요? 우리 이번에 확실하게 결선 투표 합시다, 여러분.
The DP nominee apparently had An Chol-soo in mind, and the ruling party backed him up by adopting his political reform idea as a party position. Justice Party presidential candidate Shim Sang-jung is courting voters in Gangneung and Chuncheon in Gangwon-do province on Monday. On Sunday, she attended a one-year memorial service for the late Staff Sergeant Byun Yi-soo, a serviceman who was forcibly discharged after undergoing a sex change operation.
지금 대통령 후보 중에 고 변희수 하사님을 기억하는 사람 없습니다. 저밖에 없습니다. 그래서 제가 침묵할 수 없고 더 큰 목소리로 말할 수밖에 없습니다.
To distinguish herself as a progressive party candidate, Shim also said an anti-discrimination law must be legislated.
Prime Minister Kim Bo-kyum says the government has made all necessary preparations for the start of the spring semester today. He explained the government considered postponing school reopenings due to the continuing spread of Omicron, but it decided to allow students to return to school this week since school must be operated as usual like other parts of society. The government will require schools to follow antivirus guidelines in handling those suspected of being infected with COVID-19. Minister of the Interior and Safety Tol announced the decision to suspend the enforcement of vaccine passes at restaurants, cafes, and other 9 more types of public facilities starting March 1st. In a meeting of the Central Antivirus Countermeasures headquarters today, the minister expected that the suspension will enable medical workers to focus on managing COVID-19 patients at high risk. Meanwhile, the government will dispatch 3,000 public officials and 1,000 soldiers to 258 community healthcare centers nationwide to help them deal with surging COVID-19 infections. Blood supply is disrupted again as the Omicron variant spreads like wildfire in Korea. The Korean Red Cross warns that a blood shortage, the scope of a social disaster, may come.
A blood donation centre located in the middle of the city. No donors are found, not in the blood collection room or the waiting area. Only about 10 donors came in the past several hours. Prior to the pandemic, more than 30 donors would come in the morning hours alone. But nowadays, the number keeps declining.
오미크론이 이렇게 확산이 되면서 확진자가 너무 많이 증가를 하니까 바깥 활동 자체를 조금 꺼려하시는 것.
Group blood donation is also decreasing dramatically. About 840,000 people gave blood in group donations in 2019, but the number fell below 630,000 last year. It has been a while since the blood reserve has fallen to an alarming level. There should be enough blood for more than 5 days to deal with emergencies, but at present there are only 3 days worth of blood nationwide. Adequate amount of blood reserve was maintained for a total of only 10 days this year and not a single day this month. Last week, the reserve fell to 2.5 days, nearing an alarming level.
오미크론 확산에 따라 지금처럼 환월자 급감이 지속된다면 사회적 재난 수준의 위기 상황이 도래할 수 있다고.
There are concerns that such a blood supply shortage may become chronic.
인구 고령화에 따른 혈액 사용량이 계속 증가하고 있고요. 저출생으로 혼혈 가능 인구가 감소되었습니다. 이에 따라 가지고 만성적인 혈액 부족으로
Some regions are already reducing the amount of blood sent to medical institutions. Patients and their families about to undergo surgeries are posting ads online to look for designated donors, but even that isn't working out for some. The need for more interest in blood donation is becoming more apparent.
With Russian troops marching on into Kyiv, the foreign ministry says the number of South Koreans staying in Ukraine dropped to 46 as of 10 p.m. Sunday. Of them, 6 were waiting to leave the country in regions bordering Romania, Poland, and Slovakia. 31 people were confirmed to have opted to remain in Ukraine, and 9 people plan to pull out of the country when the situation gets worse. North Korea says its projectile fired on Sunday was an important test for developing a reconnaissance satellite system. Pyongyang has also released photos of the Korean peninsula taken from space using rocket cameras.
North Korea's Noldong Shinmun, published by the Workers' Party, says a test conducted on Sunday was an important step for the development of a reconnaissance satellite system. According to the regime state media, the National Aerospace Development Administration and the Academy of National Defense Science conducted vertical and oblique photographing of a specific area on Earth, with cameras to be loaded on the recon satellite. The newspaper added the test has confirmed the characteristics and working accuracy of its high-definition photographing system, data transmission system, and altitude control devices. It called the test a significant step toward developing a recon satellite system. Judging by the announcement, Pyongyang tested an Earth photographing system using recon cameras loaded onto mid-range ballistic rockets. Photos of the Korean peninsula taken from space were also released. Military recon satellites were among the key national defense goals announced at the Workers' Party convention last January. However, testing them could serve as an opportunity to test fire ICBMs, as utilizing long-range rocket launch technologies is essential for the development of recon satellites. Long-range rockets and ICBMs are based on similar technologies. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said Pyongyang fired a projectile presumed to be a mid-range ballistic missile from the Sunan area into the East Sea at 7:52 a.m. Sunday. The projectile flew 300 kilometers at an altitude of up to 620 kilometers. Experts say it was likely fired at a high angle. So far, the North disclosed the types and specifications of fired missiles the following day, but this time, it only mentioned that it was a recon satellite development test.
Korean researchers have developed a technology for predicting the strength of concrete using optical fiber sensors. It's expected to help prevent tragedies caused by building collapses as a result of weak concrete.
A metallic cable containing optical fiber is embedded in concrete. The optical fiber is equipped with a sensor for measuring the concrete's temperature, tension, and crevices. This optical-based multiple array sensor system has been developed by the Electronics and Telecommunications Research Institute to predict the strength of concrete. The technology forecasts the long-term strength of concrete by measuring the hydration heat emitted during concrete's curing and observing a concrete mixing ratio, internal temperature, and external environment.
건축물의 균열, 진도, 붕괴 같은 이상 징후를 찾아내 탐지하는 기술입니다. 광선별 센서와 그 지능형 IoT 기술을 활용해서 건축물 안전도를 모니터링하는 기술입니다.
The ETRI has produced pilot products and test beds for assessing the use of the new system at construction sites. It is monitoring the hydration heat and maturity of concrete in the winter season. Once the new technology is utilized, it will allow for a measure of the long-term strength of concrete, as well as monitor crevices and external noise.
콘크리트 도로의 양생 또는 동내에 일어나는 균열, 물 흐름 또는 갈라짐 이런 것까지 다 잡아낼 수가 있어서 우리 생활 안전에 바로 사용을 할 수가 있습니다.
The institute plans to transfer the technology to construction and safety-related companies as early as October.
The endangered yellow-throated marten, which used to be found in national parks, have been spotted in urban area mountains in Miryang and Changwon. Since the marten is an apex predator and ecosystem engineer in the forest ecosystem, experts say marten protection measures must be designed through habitation studies.
Choasan Mountain in the city of Miryang, Gyeongsangnam-do Province. It stands 150 meters tall. In the mountain located behind the Miryang Cultural Center, a marten with a wide yellow band around its neck is seen scampering on the leaf-covered ground, searching for food. It was captured on an eco-surveillance camera last month. The marten, belonging to the same family as the weasel, with a similar body shape and tail size, is a Class II endangered species designated by the Ministry of Environment. Another marten was spotted in Cheongyangsan Mountain in Changwon last April. It is quite unusual that the marten, which used to live deep in the mountains of the Chirisan National Park or the Baekdu-daegan mountain range, are now discovered near city centers.
그동안 제약산이나 이런 백두대간 등에서 전부 다 담이 관찰됐는데 최근 인근 바로 집 주변에서 관찰된다는 게 굉장히 신기하고.
Ecologists believe that an increase in the number of martens has caused them to expand their habitats. They point out, since the marten is an apex predator and ecosystem engineer in the forest ecosystem, marten protection measures must be designed through habitation studies.
정확한 위치를 신고를 해주시면은 그 지점이 이제 추후 생태자연도나 그런 멸종위전 서식지를 보호하는 그런 근거 자료로.
The Restoration Center for Endangered Species under the National Institute of Ecology is receiving tips in order to study wildlife habitats. The center has discovered 51 new habitats of mountain goats and other wild creatures last year.